All right, so all good with that. So yeah, basically today what I wanted to go over was how you can essentially use Facebook ad campaigns in Command to um, build a lead pool. So essentially capturing leads through Command using Facebook ads. And I would say over the course of the past maybe year, maybe a little bit more than that, they've been doing a lot of incremental updates to the system, and they've been really making it super simple for you to run a Facebook ad through Command. And if you're not aware, which you may have already been aware of, um, Facebook does have a partnership with KW, so that allows us to have access to specific tools that are not being that are not essentially being accessed by any other company right now, or being given to any other company. So what that means is that we can actually build our Facebook campaigns through Command and not have to actually be in Facebook to do it. And if you tried running an ad through Facebook, it is not as easy as it seems. So within Command, they really kind of they really narrowed it down to a very very simplified version, and makes it a lot easier for the agents to do. It's very user friendly, and I find it to be quite useful in lead gen specifically. And you'll see when I go into my dashboard, how I'm actually capturing those leads. And if I'm losing my voice, bear with me. Was running in between a lot of calls today. So in any case, we're going to be going into my settings real quick, because I want to just kind of run through the settings just so you can see all the things that I have to have connected before I can even start. So I'm in my settings here in Command, and the few things that I definitely want to make sure are connected, and this is more specific to the Facebook advertising. Definitely post scheduling. That's going to be used more for my social posts in general. But then we have something at the bottom here called Facebook Ad Manager. And what that entails is it's going to use my Facebook business page to run ads. And you definitely want to make sure that if you are running any ads, that you already have some sort of business page connected, because it's not going to let you run an ad through a personal page. I get that question quite a bit. So it's not going to run through a personal page. You definitely want to make sure that you're running it through your business profile. However, you do need to make sure that you do have your Facebook page connected, because it does pull from whatever profile that you have, whatever business pages you manage. So those are a couple things that you definitely want to make sure are connected in here, and takes like 2 seconds to do. So once you have that done, you're pretty much good to go. Now, for me to get any sort of advertising set up or any sort of campaigns running, I want to go into my campaign section here. So under campaigns, this is going to be the dashboard that I'm led to, and it's essentially going to be an overview of any of the campaigns I currently have running. What is the actual engagement I have currently. So you can see in this case, the ones that I have running currently, which ones are performing well in regards to the most leads, which has the lowest cost per lead. And then here's the most engaged. And this is going to be running from the last 30 days. If I want to run it year to date, you can also see here, it's going to change those analytics accordingly. In this case, you'll see that my most engaged or most leads captured was from this one specifically. What the cost per lead was on average, and then also what the reactions were. So what was getting the most engagement. If you're ever looking for anything to just have as content to quickly post, they do have a nice convenient section here called Quick Posts. And this is going to have just some auto-generated content that I can use to pull into my Facebook business page directly. So for example, if I clicked on this one here, it's going to generate a nice little post for me. It says, bad joke alert. What's the only thing that shows more appreciation? That is a bad joke, but it's funny. What's the most only thing that shows more appreciation than me? US home prices. That's a good one. So if you're looking to have some sort of corny joke on your Facebook page just to spice up the content, there you go. You got your nice little joke of the day. And this is content, as I mentioned, it's going to be auto-generated. So it's things that they're going to have within the campaign section that I can essentially go in and I could use if I needed just to kind of add content into my page. And then it goes into a nice little summary here. The average appreciation for homes is 9%, highest it's been since 2013, which was a good year. So if I go into campaigns again, just to kind of recap, this is my dashboard. Here's the general performance. And then you have a nice thing that I also like in here is it will show you based on my goals, how many leads I need to actually capture to get to that goal. So I have a very big number to get to. I have 105,000 leads I need to capture in the year. So we can show you how you can capture those leads. Again, I can also use this to connect my pages. In this case, I have my pages connected in here as well. And then towards the bottom, they also have some nice training materials. So if you're ever looking to kind of recap on some of the information or kind of get more tips and tricks, they do have this nice little KWU section at the bottom, super useful. So let's go back up to the top again. We're going to go into where it says paid ads, and that's going to be where my Facebook ads are going to essentially live. And you'll see here currently I have one ad running. I have quite a few that have been completed. And you can also notice here on the dashboard, it does give you a nice overview of some of the analytics. So what is the cost per impression, cost per click, and cost per lead captured? I'll explain all those in a second. But you can see here, basically, it gives you a nice little overview of any drafts or any sort of completed campaigns I have. And also anything that's currently running. I can also filter this. So if I want to only show my actives, or if I want to just show my archived, or even like my past done campaigns, you can filter them accordingly. Otherwise, you can also just have it show all, which is totally up to you. Now, I mentioned something here. For each one of these analytics, you'll notice that there's a number underneath. So some of them will have bigger numbers than the others. And the reason why is if you'll notice what it says cost per or CPM. CPM means cost per impression. So that basically means how many screens did I get this in front of? So a really nice example of one here you can see, this is 2077 Center Ave. I ran an ad for 10 days, and those 10 days it generated 107,000 to let's just say 1,700 impressions, which means it got in front of that many eyes. Now, out of that many eyes, 111 click through. And then out of those 111 click throughs, 22 actually went and submitted the form, which is the lead capture form. So you'll notice that I had about 22 leads captured at $1.36 per lead. That's not bad. And considering that I'm only spending a very modest $30 budget, very good rate of return. And again, 22 leads that are essentially qualified. They're going to have their information on file, and you're pretty much good to go with those. So they do call them qualified leads. They do include a phone number and email. And I noticed with the algorithm now inside of Command, it's getting a lot smarter. So it's actually trying its best to get you better quality leads, to make it a lot easier for you to kind of turn those over into contacts or clients rather. And a lot cheaper than you'd probably expect from something like Zillow, which is going to be heaps more than this. And again, I spent $30 on this, and I got quite a lot bang for my buck on that. Good stuff. All right, so you're probably wondering now, like, how do we do it? How do we get these actual leads? So what we want to do is we're going to create a new ad, and we're going to select here social ad. And I'm going to call this campaign, let's say I'm advertising a just sold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just sold campaign. We'll just put just sold ad, and maybe it's going to be 7400 River Road. All right, I'm just choosing a random address here. And I'm going to do, in this case, because we're looking to kind of prospect, I'm going to do it to attract listings. So maybe I want to look for more listings in that area. So this case, this is North Bergen, I believe. So maybe I'm really trying to focus on my North Bergen clients. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select attract listings. And you'll notice here where it says find sellers who are looking for agents who can sell their home. So this is essentially underneath this whole system, there's an AI. And the AI is basically helping me kind of try to find those people. So here I'm going to say, where will my campaign run? I'm going to select Facebook. I can also do Instagram if I wanted to as well. In this case, I'm just going to do Facebook. And I'm going to do setup campaign. And what's going to happen now, it's going to bring me into this editor here. And if you ever ran any sort of ads in Facebook or in Command rather, you'll notice that it's essentially the same through all the campaign functions. So email campaigns, direct mailing campaigns, and then Facebook ad campaigns. They all have this very similar user interface. So the editor itself is very much going to be the same across the board. So it makes it a little bit more user-friendly for you. All right, so as I'm kind of going through this, I'm going to add a new listing and I'm going to select here, we're going to do 7400 River Road. And we're going to search. I think I used this one as an example once before, so I'll use it again. We'll select this one. And it is in North Bergen, as I mentioned. So this is going to be in North Bergen. Now, because this is a just sold, I'm going to just change the copy a little bit. But you'll notice that when you're running any sort of ad against a listing, it does actually pull in the copy automatically. So very useful, especially if you're looking to get something together really quickly. Makes it a lot more easy for you to do than having to kind of think up something to write, which for me, at least, I have a hard time sometimes thinking of stuff to write. All right, so I'll just say something like this gorgeous home in North Bergen. Oof, I'm having a hard time spelling today too. North Bergen just sold, let's say, we're just making up some copy here. So just sold 20K over asking within a week. And you, or let's put something like, are you interested in learning how much your home is worth today? So I'm just kind of writing up some copy off the top of my head here. So it's like, are you interested in learning how much your home is worth today? Contact me today at, and I'll put my phone number. And the reason why I'm doing this is because when you're running a Facebook ad on and somebody's on their mobile device, they can actually click through and they can actually call you directly or email you directly. So another benefit of that is that in addition to being able to capture them through the lead capture form, if they click on my number or my email, that's essentially also capturing them as a lead because we already would have established some contact at that point. So great way to get some other additional ways to capture a lead. So in that case, I have my direct contact info in the body of the text. Again, I also like to recommend keeping it short. They typically recommend 125 characters or less. I tend to agree with that. This went a little bit over, but I think for the most part, you get the idea. Try to keep it as short as possible. Now with the headline, we did use a headline that was auto-generated by KW. So need to move. We can also change that too. It's not permanent. I can just say something like, we'll say like North Bergen. We'll say the North Bergen market is hot right now. I don't know. I'm just putting something like that. I'll put something like this. How much is your home worth in North Bergen? Check. Something like that. So description text, I'm also just going to use this as well. Now, the reason why I'm not too concerned about my description here is because when I'm running a lead gen ad specifically, this is actually hidden. So they're not going to see this text. So I'm just going to leave that there for now. And I'm going to hit save ad text. Now, what I can also do here is you'll notice that under add media, I can select configure and I can select images as well. So the images that are populating in here are pulling from the MLS. And if you're running an ad for a listing, whether it be your own or for another agent, all the, oh, just gonna mute some mics in here. Got a little feedback there. So yeah, what I was trying to say is whenever you're running an ad, whether it be your own or for another agent, the MLS data is going to be already in here. So in this case, I have the images and I'm going to select a few of them. I'm not going to use all of them, but you could use up to 5 because in this case, I'm running it as a carousel. Additionally, you can also run it as a video ad. So if you have a nice little short video, you can also use that as well. I'm going to pull in some of these shots here. Love that little walkway. If you've ever been there, it's pretty awesome. Let's see if I can pull in just a few other images here. And I'll just use one of the exteriors. There we go. All right, cool. So we have my images all selected, right? Looks pretty good so far. We're going to save that as my ad media. Okay, so then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go where it says Facebook ad. I'm going to hit configure. And you'll notice now that it's going to ask me for my account. In this case, I have my account connected. It's going to ask me what pages I want to run this to. So if I do it for a page, I'm going to run it to my my business profile. And then it's going to ask me what the destination URL is going to be. In this case, sorry, it's going to ask me step 2. It's going to ask me which destination do I want to select. I'm going to select a lead gen form. Alternatively, you can use something called use a site or landing page. Basically, all that will do is it would make your site or make your ad rather more geared towards impressions. So getting it in front of the most eyes as possible. So if you're looking to just have this ad blasted out to the most people as possible, but you're not looking to generate leads necessarily, you can use this option because it will put it in front of a lot of eyes. However, if we're looking for generating just leads specifically, we want to use this option here, the gen form. And by default, it's typically already pre-selected for you, so you don't have to usually select it. But I've noticed that sometimes agents don't have it selected, and it will default to this sometimes. And what happens is when they're running the ad and they're not getting any leads, they're wondering why. It's typically because of that option. So just be aware of that. If you're ever running an ad, just make sure that this option is selected. All right, so then the destination URL, this is going to be after somebody clicks through the ad, where exactly do I want them to go? Perhaps I have a landing page created where I can show them or have them fill out a form where they will contact me for a home valuation, or maybe I'm going to send them to a neighborhood landing page, or perhaps what I want to do is have them download my app link. So depending on what I want them to do, I can copy and paste a link in here. But alternatively, what I can also do is I can choose a landing page I've created already. And I can say like, okay, I'm going to send them to my booking page. So maybe I'm going to have them book an appointment with me. So it's going to generate a link, and that link is going to be formatted for the ad specifically. So that link here, again, it can be any sort of link, and it will show you that it's approved. There'll be a little check next to it. We're good to go. Now, if you recall, we're running this as an ad that's going to be geo farming within North Bergen, or doing prospecting in North Bergen. So what I'm doing here is under ad targeting, I'm going to just choose custom settings for a second. So we have our targeting for North Bergen selected, and it's defaulted to a 20-mile radius, which I typically don't recommend changing. 15 miles will be too little, and it's typically recommended by Facebook that you do it up to 20. The other thing is that you can do it to be, let's say, 25 miles, that's fine. I would say keep it within the 20 to 25 mile radius. depending on the area, because if you're working in like a more rural area, you might want to expand the mile radius a little bit. I've noticed with some people, I've seen that where, and I, watch videos where if it's like an ad running into like an area where it's like, farms and all that stuff, you may want to have a radius more expanded out, but we're in a pretty densely populated area. So I think 20 miles is like pretty sufficient. Then we can start adding in our targeting. So it says expert targeting, and don't be too intimidated by that. It's not very expert. It just sounds fancy that way. But if you want to think of it in any case, it's going to be basically what are the interests for the person that I'm looking to send this to. So we already know by default, they're probably going to be somebody that is searching Zillow. It might be somebody who's also on realtor.com. I always like to just say, select the top, the top pages. It's not going to let you search for brokerages. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to do any sort of brokerage search. I might do something like luxury. I don't know. It really just depends on the person you're targeting here. So I might put something in that. Now there's also a little cheat sheet here. And here you'll see I can kind of go through and say like, well, maybe I want to target somebody who is into banking. Maybe I'm looking into targeting somebody who's doing, business or business travel, or somebody who may be into, whatever it winds up being. So this little cheat sheet here kind of gives you an idea of like different types of interest you can choose from. Makes it a little bit easier, especially if you're like me, who I sometimes don't even know like what type of interest I want to target. So I can go in and I can say like, oh, well, maybe it's somebody who, recently checked their credit history. I don't know, credit cards, whatever. Maybe they're a cryptocurrency geek. They can be that person as well. We'll save it. So basically what it's doing, it's going to say include people who match these particular interests. And it's not going to be all interests all together. It's basically going to be like Zillow or Realtor or Trulia. So it can be any kind of number of these. And it just will help narrow down my audience a bit. Now you also notice as I'm saying that there is another option here called narrow audience, and that will add an and factor into your narrow audience option. So basically what that means is if I'm looking for somebody who like Zillow, they also need to match something else. So I'm going to say, and maybe, let's see if I can get a good one here to search with. Landlord. So maybe I'm going to be targeting multi-properties, whatever. So here, if I'm looking for these options, I also want to make sure that it's somebody who is a landlord as well. So it's kind of just a way to further narrow it down. I'm going to delete that though. All right, we're going to hit save Facebook ad. There's going to be another option here, and I don't know if this is available to everybody just yet, so I don't want to kind of touch into it, but basically you'll have some lead settings where if I have a lead, I can have them automatically ran into a smart plan. Look out for that if you don't have it, but just be aware that if you don't have it, it's typically because it's not released to everybody yet. The other option here you'll notice, and this is the last thing that we go through, is duration and budget. So this is where I set up the budget for my ad and also the amount of days I want it to run for. So I showed you the ads that I've ran, and I typically only run them for 10 days over $30. Now you may be running this for way longer, because if this is an ad where you're prospecting, you may want to run this for a little bit longer, and maybe you're hoping to get a little bit more action out of it. Maybe you're going to run it for a month, and then you're going to put in a budget of maybe like $100 instead. Ooh, 1,000 would be a lot. But if I'm going to run this for, 39 days over $100, you're probably going to get a good amount of leads out of that for sure. So if I hit save duration and budget, the only last thing that I need to do now is I hit publish campaign, and I'm not going to do it because it will actually run it. But if I do that and I hit create campaign, that's going to run the ad, and I will start noticing as I'm generating leads. You'll get notifications for those, and those leads will be directly routed into your database. So let's go back real quick. So if we go back, you'll notice under the campaigns that I've had ran in the past, there is a dollar amount, and then there's also a link here that says 22 leads. So if I click on that, it's actually going to bring me into the list of leads that I've captured. You'll notice that I can kind of go through and see all those leads. They all have their information. And then what's going to happen is I could actually select these. And if I wanted to select all of them and then maybe add them to a smart plan as an example, which right now it's not letting me. But if I like clicked on one of these names, which it's not letting me do as well, I think it's because I don't own these anymore. But if I wanted to like add them to a smart plan, I can actually select all. And then those leads can be added to a smart plan accordingly. Let me see if I can do, let me see if anyone's over here have it. Hold on one sec. I think this one was already claimed as well. Okay, so that's another thing. If these leads were already claimed by another agent, it's not going to let me myself do anything. But in any case, you'll notice that I could go in there as a solo agent. I can go in and I can pop them into a smart plan if I wanted to. Makes my life easier when I'm trying to set up those follow-ups as well. And if you ever been to one of my Facebook lead courses or smart plan classes, typically the most recommended follow-up times are typically within the first 10 minutes, between 5 and 10 minutes, because at that point is when it starts to kind of drop off, when the customer or the lead's going to really start responding back. So I would say as soon as you capture that lead, it's probably best to give them a call or text them. Again, with the smart plans, it's going to make things a little bit easier, especially when you have the smart plan trigger where it can be once that lead is captured, they're automatically added to a smart plan. That's really going to make the follow-up process a lot easier, in my opinion. I'm looking forward to when that's fully released for everybody. All right, so I'm kind of getting towards the end of my class here. So typically what I like to do, as I'm having this recorded, I like to go through and I just kind of go through our YouTube channel real quick. So this YouTube channel, it's just Bergen County Partners. Any of the videos that we've recorded or live streamed will be added into here. So this class in particular, I will post a little bit later today. And any other classes that we've done in the past, you'll also find here. And super useful resource, especially if you're looking to kind of rewatch something. And I'm just going to start taking questions here as well. So I noticed something in chat. So Larit asked a question and she was asking, how do you pay for your ads if you do it through command? So that's a good question. Basically what happens is you can use your whatever payment method you want to use. It's not being billed to KW directly. It's actually being billed to Facebook. So when I'm running an ad, I'm actually paying Facebook. So if I go to payments here, you can actually add a payment method on file, and that payment method will be used to run your Facebook ads. You will be billed. Typically, you're billed after the ad is done running. So if you wind up not spending a full amount of your budget, that budget that hasn't been spent will go towards a new ad and a credit. So I know a question I get quite often. So you were running an ad and you paused it for some reason, and you've already spent $15 on that ad. So the other $15 that you didn't spend will go towards your ad on another ad. Oh, let me rephrase that. Where it says here remaining credit, that $15 will go there, and that credit will remain on your account so you can use it towards a new ad, if that makes sense. I get that question often. So that's essentially how Facebook ads work. If you're doing it Facebook directly as well, if you're not running the full ad amount, any of the amount that hasn't been spent goes towards a credit, which will be used towards a new ad. So just be aware of that. If you're running an ad and you're doing like, let's say you're doing like $100 budget, but you only spend 50, the remaining budget will go towards another ad. It'll go towards a remaining credit here. Any other questions before I hop out of here? See if there's anything else in the chat. So Michelle's asking, do you need permission from listing agents to use photos on just sold ads when you're a buyer agent? That's a good question. Typically, what I usually recommend doing is if you're a buyer's agent and you're running an ad on a just sold and you weren't the listing agent for that, I typically just recommend asking the agent first. Now, you noticed when I was running the ad, I was pulling those photos in from the MLS. So those were already available to me. But typically what I recommend doing is if you're running an ad for another agent's listing, I usually just give them a courtesy and say like, hey, do you mind if I run this ad for 123 Main Street that just sold? You're not I mean, they're not the one paying for it, you are. So I don't see why they would have an issue with you running some sort of advertising around it, because you're also trying to promote yourself as an agent. And, that's a great way to do it through Facebook. So I think I would just give them like just a courtesy, like, hey, just wanted to let you know, or if it's okay, can I run an ad on 123 Main Street that just sold? And that I don't think that should be an issue. I know I get that question often. But yeah, my answer is typically just kind of run it by the listing agent first. I know some agents would rather run the marketing themselves and they're very protective about the images. So yeah, I always just say make sure with them, just double check. Cool. Any other questions? So just one other thing just as well. When I was running that ad specifically for the listing side, the buy side is almost exactly the same. You're just kind of changing the verbiage a little bit, and you're also changing the target audience, of course, because maybe within the target audience of the buyers, you're going to be targeting a specific area that you think they're going to be moving to. So in that case, with the buy sides, you're just kind of changing around the target audience and maybe some of the interests. The graphics, I want to just show real quickly through the graphics. If we go under designs, so I know another thing a lot of agents ask me about is like, if they don't have any listings, where can they pull some sort of content that they can run an ad on? Which is a very good question. So if we go under designs and I go where this little plus button is, I'm going to actually choose social and I'm going to hit next. And once this loads, I'm going to be brought to my template library. Now, with regards to running ads, we do have quite a lot of content in here. And especially if you're running an ad for like your consumer app, a lot of different graphics that you can pull from. But like, let's say I want to like put something together as like a local expert or neighborhood snap even. This is a good one. So let's use a neighborhood snapshot. We're going to do social square because I like to use the square ones. Again, it's going to be your preference, but I like the squares. It is formatted specifically for Insta, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So I like to use these as an example. We'll just use this one. Let's pick this. Okay, so we're going to be running a buyer ad. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be just changing the verbiage up a little bit. Picture yourself and we'll say Fort Lee. All right, so we just changed the text a little bit. Now for the logos, I do have my logos already in here. If you want to know where to grab the logos, I'll show you in a second. Can I just change that up a little bit? Now, you're probably like, well, these stats aren't Fort Lee. How do I get the Fort Lee stats? Well, there is a button on the left-hand side called KWLS, and I can click that. And under where it says listings, I can go to a section called snapshots. And you'll notice that I can pull from either a neighborhood or a zip code. So if I'm looking to pull in a full zip code, I'll type it in and hopefully it'll work this time. I'm pulling in a full zip code. And what's going to happen is it's going to generate a neighborhood snapshot for that neighborhood or that zip code specifically. So if I pull this in, it's going to pull in the stats for 07024, which is Fort Lee. It's going to give me some of the information about the average list price. Here's the average sold price, which maybe that might be incorrect, but total actives, you have total pendings, days on market, and then average price per square foot. I do believe that this is also factoring in rentals. So just kind of be aware of that. But in any case, what's going to happen is I have this neighborhood snapshot set up. And what I can do here is I can actually download this, and I'm going to download it as a graphic. So we're going to use this in an ad. So let's go ahead and download this first. So I downloaded the graphic. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back into my Facebook ads. And we're going to just do one of these real quick because it's not going to take very long. We're going to go ahead and go into my campaigns again. We're going to run the same process we're going to do here, create a new campaign. We're going to do a social ad, and then I'm going to put here Fort Lee buyer ad. And then I'm going to just do here, let's do attract buyers. We're going to do Facebook setup. And I'm going to go ahead and we're not going to worry about adding a listing in this point. We're going to say, let's say something like the Fort Lee, let's see, rewrite that. The Fort Lee home market is heating up. Have you thought about living minutes away from NYC and amazing downtown areas? I don't know, something like that. Contact me today. And I'll put, again, I'm going to do something very similar that I did before. Okay, so now we have our main text. Looking for Fort Lee living, something like that. There's probably going to be quite a few people, and we're going to go through that in a second, how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to say, click learn more for details. We're going to hit save ad media, or save ad text rather. I'm going to go and hit configure ad media, and we do have that graphic we created. So I'm going to go ahead and hit add image, and I could also do it from the design library, but I'm going to just upload it directly. And I have the image here. I'm going to preview and crop it. Now the default is this wide, so you want to just switch it to square, and then that's going to change it to a square. And look at that, boom, that looks beautiful. I'm going to hit save ad media. And I do like, it looks like they changed the previews a little bit, so it looks a lot cleaner here. So looking good. I'm going to hit Facebook ad. Now the only difference here is when I'm targeting, and I'm actually going to have them go to my app as well. I'm going to have them download my app. So again, this isn't going to change. Now for the ad targeting, now we got to think about like who is going to be coming into Fort Lee. So it's most likely going to be a lot of people trying to relocate out from New York. So I'll use Manhattan as an example. I mean, it's right over the bridge. So Manhattan might be a good spot for people who are looking to live in New Jersey, but not have to pay for the New York prices and then be super close to New York still. So in this case, we're going to use Manhattan. 20-mile radius, that's fine. Now with the interest, it's going to be almost exactly the same in this point. Zillow, I'll use. We'll also do commuting. I like to use commuting as one because I think for this area specifically, a lot of people are going to be commuting in and out of the city. Mortgage loans, that's also another good one. And, you know, I can kind of go through and do the same exact steps that I was taking before. There we go, I'll hit save. So I'm not going to go through all the interest again, but you see here, I can kind of tack on as many interests as I need to. In this case, I do have my Facebook ad pretty much good to go at this point. I'll hit save Facebook ad. And then with my duration and budget, again, it's going to be the 10 days over $30. And all I would need to do from here is hit publish campaign, and then we are all set. And that would be a ad that I gear towards my buyers specifically. All right, cool. Any other questions as we're kind of like wrapping up here? All right, cool. So like I mentioned, I do have this recorded. I will post it a little bit later today. I did have a nice group of attendants here, so that's great. If there's any sort of questions, feel free to reach out, but otherwise, talk to you all soon and have a good Wednesday. Take care.